to mention, as Wendy prayed, we did have a police officer that was injured. He was shot this weekend, and I just want to let our community know how we are served with some incredible individuals. And each and every day, those men and women stand in the gap for us, and we are very grateful for what they do. The situation was extremely tense. I can't even imagine, but it could have ended so badly, and it didn't, and I'm grateful for that, and I know our whole community is. We're particularly grateful that our police officer, who has a significant injury, but he was able to go home, and we just don't ever want to forget what law enforcement does in a community. And so often throughout this country now, police officers are vilified, and it's wrong. And I hope that we never have a community that feels that way about our police officers. We don't now, and I hope that we never do, because they are, as I said earlier, they stand in the gap. I appreciate Chief Durzis and all of the hard work that went into closing that entire episode. The way that it did close was remarkable. The people that were called from all different parts of the county and the cities around us that helped was really remarkable. We talk about regional cooperation with police officers and firefighters. We wrote the book on that, I believe, and that's what you saw yesterday. But a lot of things had to happen even after that police officer was confronted and was shot. A lot of things had to happen to make that close in the way it did close, and with a happy ending. So thank you, Chief, and thank you to any of the other police officers that are here. And we just want to never forget that. So with that said, we will move on to another great part of our city, and that's our library. What a fantastic library we have. And this is National Friends of the Library Week. And I'd love for Amanda Borden, who is the leader. Where is Amanda? Come on up, Amanda. And then we have Ms. Charinita Reese is our president, and many other board members are here. I'd ask for y'all to come up as well so we can read the proclamation. And we'll just go right over. Show them where we go, Amanda. You know where we go. Yeah. Good, Edie. Good. Hey, Phil. Hey, good to see you. And bring the friends, especially.
It's still we don't do anything. They do the work.
Yes, sir. Whereas Friends of the Hoover Library raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the Friends have continuously supported the Hoover Library for 40 years. Whereas the work of Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to the present. And whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, along with expert assistance in research, readers advisory, and children's services. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all and how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Frank Mercado proclaims October 16 through 22, 2022 as Friends of Libraries Week in Hoover, Alabama, and urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better.
Thank you, guys. I just wanted to say one word of gratitude and just an interesting fact about our Friends of the Library. We're celebrating all year long the 40th anniversary of the Friends, and I think it is important to note that in a lot of communities, a library is started and then a group of volunteers come along and they start raising money for Friends. But in Hoover, actually, the Friends of the Library came first in 1982 in the home of Mary Lou and Paul Allen, and they advocated for a library in Hoover, and they are the reason that a library board was appointed. Linda Andrews was appointed as the first library director, and a library was opened the next year in 1983. So next year will be the 40th anniversary of the library itself. So our Friends organization gave birth to the library, and I think that's really worth noting that we would not be here without that group. So thank you so much for all you do for us.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Borden. I'd like to now call on Mr. Jared Hudson. Mr. Hudson is a candidate for Jefferson County Sheriff. It'll be on the ballot here in about 3 weeks, right, Mr. Hudson?
Yes, sir.
We'd like to welcome you to the Hoover City Council and recognize you for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor being here. As he said, my name is Jared Hudson. I'm the Republican candidate for Jefferson County Sheriff. In 3 minutes, I'm going to give you the quick up and down as fast as I can. The most important thing you need to know about me is I'm a born-again Christian. That means Jesus died, rose again on the third day for my sins and yours, and it's through him we're set free. So I always preface with that because in political season, everybody's a Christian. I want y'all to know what that means. Number two, I have a wife. I've been married for 13 years. I have 3 beautiful children, so I'm a father as well, and that's part of the reason that I'm running for Jefferson County Sheriff, because I want my kids to be raised in a county that I was raised in when I was young, that's safe from the massive crime epidemic that we see infiltrating our country, not just our county and state. Number 3, I'm a former Navy SEAL. When I left the SEAL teams, I finished my MBA. I became a law enforcement officer. I'm sworn with the state of Alabama, so I'm currently an investigator for the state of Alabama. I run a small business, the Shooting Institute. We do training for military and law enforcement all over the nation. And finally, we have a nonprofit Covenant Rescue Group. We actually arrested 5 last week in Demopolis, Alabama, who were trafficking children. With all of that in my resume, that's why I'm running for Jefferson County Sheriff. I believe I'm the best man for the job. Now, why is that important? The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. And with the chief law enforcement officer of the county, that's going to directly impact the crime epidemic, for lack of a better word, that we're seeing all over, to include in Hoover. You need a good chief law enforcement officer or a good sheriff to partner with local agencies, just like your chief here in Hoover, and that's what I intend to do, and that's what I've done throughout the duration of my adult career, and that's what I will do as your sheriff, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. So without further ado, can I allow them to ask questions? I try to say it quick if that's okay.
Well, this is just an opportunity for you to present yourself, Mr. Hudson. So if you'd like to stick around after the meeting and meet and greet with folks, that'd be
Perfect.
welcome to.
After the meeting, I'll be around a little bit. I have flyers that I'm going to hand out. Since I've got 1 minute and 10 seconds, I will say that was pretty quick, right? That was good. My dad's a Southern Baptist preacher, so I've had to learn from him not to keep going on. I'll leave you with this one thing. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said it's not good enough to patch up the wounds and bruises of those who've been rolled over by the wheels of injustice, but we have to drive a spike into the wheel itself. What I'm asking you for is I'm asking you to be the hammer. I'll be the spike, drive me into the wheels of injustice that we're seeing going on right now. Justice and mercy is the most important thing when we're seeing crime epidemic as we see it. And then when we see law enforcement, as the mayor talked about, being vilified, we have to have good law enforcement leaders that can make sure the men and women that protect us every single day are going to be protected themselves. So I'm asking you to be the hammer that drives me into the wheels of injustice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. We're honored tonight to have a friend of the city of Hoover and president of Signature Homes, Mr. Jonathan Belcher here, and I would like to call on our city administrator, Mr. Alan Rice, to introduce an item that is on our consent agenda, which will be item number 8 you'll hear about later in the consent. But Mr. Rice would like to introduce that tonight and tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had the opportunity to talk on Thursday night about agenda item 8, which is a contract with a firm called Land Design, and they will be engaged to not only perform a recreational asset and amenities inventory, but also more of a strategic plan that'll be a complement to our citywide comprehensive plan. This wasn't our idea. This idea was actually brought to us by Mr. Belcher and Signature Homes as a way to catalog and promote the city of Hoover's recreational amenities. And as we talked more, we saw that there needed to be a bigger footprint to this effort and not just make a good consolidated list of what we have to offer as a community, but figure out where we go from here. How do we expend funds strategically going forward to maintain quality of life and prioritize lifelong recreation for our citizens. So Mr. Belcher's here tonight to present the check for the donation of $50,000 that Signature very graciously offered. They've been an outstanding corporate citizen. Many of you know what they've done to go above and beyond in the projects that they bring forward to the city and the way that they work with our residents and our different neighborhood groups. When a project is close to them, it might have some impact on them. So he'd like to be recognized for a minute, and then I think there'll be a photo opportunity with the council and the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. And Mr. Rice does get some credit for this, for pushing back a little bit. When we first had this discussion this past year, he said, well, why don't you make a commitment to it as well? And so we said, that's a great question. And so we did. But it wouldn't have happened without your commitment. I mean, it's a big one. And at Signature Homes, what drives us is creating community. We don't think of ourselves as a home builder. And this is about public spaces, which we think is a critical part in what creates community within our city. So applaud the city council and mayor and just all the staff that both worked on the comprehensive plan and put that in place. This will be a great supplement to it and help us plan these public spaces for the next several decades. So thank you very much for your commitment to that.
Good, thank you. If I could add to that, public-private partnerships are something we often heard talked about in government, but it's so good to see it come to life here, especially with such a great partner like Signature Homes. And I know those of us up here know this, but the city of Hoover has more Cahaba River frontage than any city along the Cahaba River, and it's something we've never really taken full advantage of. But this plan will hopefully get us to a point where I've often heard the phrase, and we're going to coin it, Hoover as the gateway to the Cahaba, and I think we can accomplish that through this plan. So, Mr. Belcher, thank you and Signature Homes for your help, and we appreciate the opportunity to partner with you. Would you mind getting a picture with us?
Sure, thank you. He's busy. He was all over the place.
No, ma'am.
Come on.
I regret a couple of them got out before I was able to recognize them by name, but you saw them during the presentation for the Friends of the Hoover Library Month. But I do want to recognize our Hoover Library board members who are here. Ms. Trinita Reese is here, Mr. Phil Hutchison was here, and Ms. Lori Martin was here. So thank you all for being here tonight. Welcome to the Hoover City Council. We also have some of our Board of Education members, and you'll be seeing and hearing a little bit more from them a little later with an agenda item, but I do want to recognize them, beginning with Mr. Craig Kelly, Ms. Amy Madano, Ms. Amy Tosning, Mr. Alan Paquette, Mr. Kermit Kendrick, and our Superintendent of Education, Dr. Dee Fowler. Welcome to each of you. We'll now move into our consent agenda. Items 6 through 17 are presented as items on the consent agenda that will be read at one time and voted on as a block. I will begin by asking that item number 7, Madam Clerk, if we could move that to the regular agenda. And I will ask the members of the body, is there any other items 6 through 17 that you would like moved to the regular agenda for purpose of discussion, individual vote? Hearing none, I would ask the members of the public who are in the audience, any item? Yes, ma'am? Number 8. Madam Clerk, if you'll note item 8 be moved to the regular agenda, we will take that one individually. Any other item that anyone's here to speak on? We'll be happy to move it. Seeing none, Mr. Corley, if you'll read items 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, please.
Resolution 680122 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to execute an amended agreement for solid waste collection, disposal, and treatment with the Cahaba Solid Waste Authority to offset costs now necessary for maintaining the desired services level. Resolution 680322 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to replace revenue for recurring expenses of payroll payments in the amount of $8,975,754 from the city's allocation of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, and that Mayor Brocato and the city treasurer are further authorized to submit appropriate project and expenditure reports reflecting said payments. Resolution 680422 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with DebtBook for a reporting software that meets GASB lease reporting requirements for the annual report and an immediate overview of debt and lease agreements for daily reporting, and to execute any and all documents necessary for the execution of such agreement. Resolution 680522 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into a service agreement with the Miss Hoover Foundation and to execute any and all documents necessary for the execution of such service agreement. Resolution 680622 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with Shelby County, Alabama for funding to the City of Hoover to construct a fitness court, series of outdoor exercise equipment at Veterans Park on Valleydale Road in Hoover, Shelby County, Alabama, for the general public use and for execution of any and all documents related to such agreement. Resolution 680822 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for the construction of additional lanes on SR 261 from Bearden Road to US Highway 31 in the City of Hoover, Shelby County, Alabama, and to execute any and all documents necessary for the execution of such agreement. Resolution 680922 appoints Judge Brad Bishop as the municipal judge for the City of Hoover, Alabama for a term of 2 years pursuant to Section 12-14-30 of the Code of Alabama and Section 10-2 of the Hoover Municipal Code. Resolution 681022 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with Davies Claims Solutions for liability and property claims and to execute any and all documents necessary for the execution of such agreement. Resolution 681122 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to purchase stop-loss insurance for the City of Hoover, Alabama for casualty insurance through Travelers Indemnity Company and Travelers Property Casualty Company of America, and for the execution of all documents related to that agreement. Resolution 6812-22 authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with Motorola Solutions for the dispatch and police radio system and to execute any and all documents necessary for such agreement.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now move to our regular agenda, beginning with item number 7, resolution number 680222. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the partnership between Hoover City Schools, Hoover Parks and Recreation Board, and the City of Hoover, Alabama, for the enhancement of recreational opportunities within the City of Hoover through the investment for a turf field project that will place artificial turf in various locations throughout the city.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6802-22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We had the opportunity on Thursday night to come together for a work session to hear a little bit about this, but tonight, Mayor, I'd like to turn the floor over to you to tell us and those in the chamber tonight more about this project.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you recall, during our budget presentation, we talked about an opportunity we believe we might have to turf at least one field in every ballpark in the city, as well as our high schools, our 2 baseball fields. And I'm happy to say that we have been working very hard on making that happen. And have been in great discussions with our school board, and I'm here to report that we are ready to move forward, and we'll give some real details in just a moment about it, but we're ready to move forward with actually turfing 9 of these fields, which will have a tremendous impact on the opportunity to play because of foul weather, to have an impact on taking care of fields, and it'll bring many of our fields up to industry standard, where particularly our high schools, they'll play as their field now will match any in the state of Alabama, and that's what we want to happen. So I'm grateful for Dr. Fowler and our school board. Thank y'all for being here tonight, and they'll have other things to say about it later on at one of their meetings. But at this time, I'd like Alan to come up and just kind of give some more specific details on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the clerk is bringing up some images for you all to see that'll kind of give us an overview of some of the proposed work. Through the diligence of the investment committee chaired by Councilman Posey, we were able to receive some good advice from our fund managers and Ms. Bolt, our CFO and treasurer, and we were able to put forward a plan to combine some current and future debt and free up some money that has been laid aside, had previously been laid aside to pay debt service. But we think that the new plan is a better idea, and that liberated the $9 million that I think the mayor referred to. I'd rather be lucky than good, and we are lucky that the cost estimate comes in at $9,076,000. So if we can find $76,000, we're in business. As the mayor mentioned, there'll be 9 fields. I think the image you have in front of you right now is Hoover East. Some of the criteria that we tasked our Park and Rec staff and Lathan Associates, our partner on this, were to focus on baseball fields. There are a couple reasons for that. You can do some things in the outfield of a baseball field for square field sports, but it's hard to play baseball on, or rectangular field sports, but it's hard to play baseball on a rectangular field. So we get more use out of a turfed baseball field than we might out of a turfed rectangular field. We asked them to focus on regulation size fields. You can see in this particular image, one of the fields shows how it will be broken down for practice, or you can split it in 2 different fields for peewee game play. And we asked them to focus on distributing the project across all of our sports parks, as the mayor mentioned. So that gives you an idea of what Hoover East will look like. We can go to the next one. This is the varsity baseball field at the high school. The mayor mentioned that this is probably the best thing about this is the partnership between the city and Hoover City Schools, and the very efficient use of taxpayer dollars to benefit all of our kids, all of our programs, whether it's during school hours or for a school-related endeavor, or if it's after hours or on the weekends for a recreational sport. So this would be the varsity baseball field at Hoover High School. And you can go to the next image. Shades Mountain Ballpark is the only park that would receive 1 field to be turfed, but if you see that, that might be the biggest baseball field on the planet at a youth recreational facility. And I talked to Councilman Sweeney, who I think is a past president of the league there at Shades Mountain, and he said that that was the consensus among their current board. That's the field they'd like to have, because I think they can put about 14 teams on that field to practice and play and do things. So when there's a rain out, there'll be a lot of room at Shades Mountain. You can go to the next one, please. Hoover Central Park, which is our girls softball facility. You see that there are 2 fields included there, so we're making sure that we cover all the different ball sports that are played. You can go ahead. Spain Park High School will also have their varsity baseball field turfed as a result of this, and you know, we already make extensive use of the baseball fields, the varsity ball fields at both high schools, which led to the discussion about the partnership and making sure that we place turf on school property as well. Through our partner at SFM and their permanent tenant, Perfect Game, who brings regional tournaments from across really the eastern half of the United States to Hoover. They require more fields than we have at Hoover Met Complex. So they already branch out and use some of our rec fields, but they predominantly use the varsity baseball fields at both high schools. We actually program many, many more games per year than the high schools do. So we're the primary user of those fields, and it only makes sense that we would partner and extend this benefit to everybody. In return, we're already having conversations with the school board about some helping out when we have rainouts and some possible rec league use, as long as it doesn't impact the programs that are housed there at the high school. So this is going to be some of the hidden benefits of doing this jointly with each other. And I think we may have one more. This is the Spain Park Sports Complex. So this is the city ball field along Valleydale Roads adjacent to Veterans Park. And you can see 2 fields are proposed there. And I think, is that the last image, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you. So you can see it's an equitable distribution. We wanted to be sure that every league and every sport that was covered in our neighborhood ballparks received the benefit of this. We're really trying to get into a situation where we don't have makeup games at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night when kids have to go to school the next day. And if we can have quick turnaround after some of our rainouts and maybe even put multiple practices on a turfed field, so they can get those in and they're not having to fight with calendars and do makeups and those kind of things. We're pretty sure that moms all across the city will rejoice in not having to wash clay out of white ball pans. So we think that's a good thing. And in our tournaments, and sports tourism is incredibly important to the city of Hoover. Some of our forefathers stepped out. Mr. Lyda was there. They stepped out and they committed to build the Hoover Met Complex. And it's really been transformational for this city. And never has that been more obvious than during COVID, because people did not stop traveling for travel ball with their kids. That component of the economy carried on unabated during COVID. And we were a major benefactor. The city of Hoover, that was like an important piece of keeping our economy functioning and moving forward during COVID. So it was a wise investment. It's all turf with the exception of the Met field itself and, of course, the backup field for SEC play. And we need to extend those turf benefits to our neighborhood parks and to our schools. So we appreciate the wisdom of the investment committee and the guidance that we received there. And we certainly appreciate the mayor and the council being willing to consider this. And in our partnership with Hoover City Schools is going to extend this benefit to really every child who wants to play ball in the city of Hoover.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. And it's my understanding that, Madam President of the Board, you have an item on your agenda for tomorrow night to consider this too, correct? So if the council decides to vote in favor of this tonight, we will strongly encourage our partners to do the same tomorrow night. And if so, we will certainly have even a greater celebration at your meeting. I will ask, are there any members of the council that have questions or comments about this item? Any member of the public like to comment on it? Yes, sir. If you'd like to come down and give us your name and address, you've been recognized for 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Scott Stewart. My daughter is currently on the Spain Park softball team. So my question would be, what is the plan? We talked a lot about at the schools for baseball. My question would be, what would be the plan, down the line for softball at Spain Park in Hoover?
I don't want to steal the thunder of our Board of Education, but part of the partnership will be for the Board of Education to turf softball. So if you'll keep that a secret until tomorrow night, okay. You'll hear more about that tomorrow night. But the 9 fields that we're voting on tonight will be money that the city will be expending. And tomorrow night, you may see a vote for the Hoover Board of Education to turf softball fields.
That'd be great.
Is that fair enough?
I would love it.
That's just between us.
The parents put a lot of work in when we have rainouts.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And that would be wonderful.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience tonight? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. May I ask the superintendent and board to come up with us, and let's have a celebratory picture. If we can interrupt the meeting just for a moment. If you wouldn't mind. Mayor, would you join us, please?
If you're tall, go down there. people come down here. Why? I got tossed in. Your tiptoes. How you think I feel?
Got 3 weeks. Y'all meet at 6 tomorrow night?
5:30. Okay.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, sure.
The Hoover Board of Education will meet tomorrow night at 5:30 at the central office on Metropolitan Way. So if you all would like to see part 2 of this show, then I invite you, and the board and Dr. Fowler invite you as well, 5:30 tomorrow night at their office on Metropolitan Way for their board meeting. We'll now move to item number 8, resolution number 6807-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into a professional services agreement with Land Design, Inc. to provide parks and recreation and master planning services for the municipal park network within the city of Hoover, and to execute any and all documents necessary for such agreement.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6807-22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution. Any questions or comments from the body? Any comments from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, recognized for 3 minutes, please.
KT Thomas, 1426 Scout Trace. I'm not sure it's clear that, while it's great that Signature Homes is giving $50,000, that the city is putting in $189,000. That sounded like money was tight, and it concerns me where we have our priorities. We have seen millions of dollars of flooding damage in this city, and we're spending $189,000 of taxpayer dollars to do a comprehensive recreation plan when we have no comprehensive flooding plan. And I think we need to reevaluate the priorities. I'm not one bit against you donating the money or us having a comprehensive plan for recreation. But in line with the Future of Hoover 2040 comprehensive plan, we need to have a comprehensive flooding plan as well, and we don't have that. We keep nickel and diming it, a drainage plan here, a drainage plan there for $50,000, $75,000, $80-some thousand. We're not always fixing the things that are identified in those plans, in those assessments, and that's important to the people who live here. It's a matter oftentimes of life and death, health and safety of people who live here, people who drive on the streets that are getting flooded. And that seems to me to be a higher priority than having a recreation plan. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak tonight? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now move to our regular agenda, beginning with item number 18, which requires a public hearing. That's resolution number 6791-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution grants conditional use approval to allow for a mixed-use project on the property located at 1869 Chase Drive, Hoover, Alabama, pursuant to the conditions attached as Exhibit 2 to the resolution.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 679122.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. This does require a public hearing. I would begin the public hearing by asking Mr. Martin to come forward and to recap. I know there's some members of the audience here who were not here on Thursday night for our work session. But Mr. Martin, if you would give us a recap of this item, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, this project covers a property located on Chase Drive, zoned PC planned commercial in the Chase Lake Planned Unit Development. The mixed-use development encompasses 10 residential units, which have been presented to us as condominiums that will be for sale on floors 2 and 3. 10 total units, 5 on each floor. And the bottom floor would consist of 5,000 square feet of commercial space, along with 6 garage parking spaces, a lobby for entry to the residential portions of the building upstairs, and the remainder of the site, of course, with the requisite parking and landscaping. The latest presentation that we were given at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in September was an improvement upon the original plan submitted, with the alterations made to the building and to the entire site itself. The city staff reviewed the case and found that the parking that was given on the site, including the garages, met the minimum parking requirements for the commercial and the residential components combined for this particular site. We also found the landscaping to be sufficient for the site development. We do have a couple of conditions that are included in the resolution. And these are to cover some items that we felt would be potential impacts that this mixed-use development would have on surrounding property and the neighborhood. First of all, the Planning Commission recommends to this body approval with these conditions, the first being that no food or beverage service would occupy the commercial space. Again, we mentioned that the parking placed on the site does meet the minimum requirements of office or service type establishments in the commercial sector and the residential units. Restaurants, of course, are a different category altogether when doing parking calculations, and we feel like a restaurant or some kind of use of that nature would bust the parking that is provided. In addition to that, we have sidewalk needing to be installed along the road frontage. We have all parking spaces and drive aisles, including the garage spaces, meeting standard specifications. We do believe in this latest iteration of the plan that is being presented to you that that condition will be met. Dumpster service shall not occur between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. That is in line with our dumpster service code for other properties across the city that are adjacent to residential development. Next, that the project shall substantially conform to the appearance presented in the exhibits. And I will note that the latest iteration of this plan shows the vast majority of the building having a brick facade and a coloration that would be in keeping with the general theme of that commercial area. Also, finally, that any signage included on the site for the commercial aspect would be regulated by our mixed-use district regulations in Article 12 in the zoning ordinance, since what the developer wishes to accomplish would be indeed a mixed-use development. One more note that I wanted to make is that both planning and zoning and engineering looked at this particular project and looked at the traffic generation that would occur according to the International Transportation Engineers standards, and found that this particular development had such a low peak hour traffic generation that it did not warrant an extensive study. So if there are any other questions related to that, I can perhaps have engineering assist. But that's all I have this evening. I'm open for any questions or comments the council may have.
Any questions from the body for Mr. Martin tonight as part of the public hearing?
Okay. I will note that the Planning Commission did vote unanimously in favor of this project at their September meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Martin. I know the applicant is here as well. Should there be any questions or comments from the body? One more time, any questions or comments from the body on the item? Hearing and seeing none. Is there anyone in the public here with a comment tonight on this item? Yes, sir. If you'd like to come down and give us your name and address, please. You're recognized for 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Rob Ballas, and I live at 427 Pineway Drive. Hearing all this, that's great, right? We've done traffic studies, we've done parking lot studies, we've looked at ergonomics and how it looks and all that. Was there a drainage study done? Has anyone looked at where all the runoff is going to go?
Sir, if I could ask,
City's seen it and approved.
address your questions to the council if you
Oh,
don't
I'm
mind.
sorry. Was there a drainage study done?
Mr. Martin, do you know?
This particular lot was included in the drainage design for the commercial sector of Chase Lake. So it was anticipated that this lot would be developed, and the development of this lot would be handled by the storm drainage infrastructure that was installed as designed for the Chase Lake commercial sector.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thanks that the city has seen this plan and has looked at it.
Well, any plan that is performed as a requirement of a development, certainly city engineers have approved that
Okay.
and reviewed that.
Okay, so I never hear that there's a drainage study. I always hear about the traffic study because people don't like traffic, but
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight?
Mr. President, if I could add to that real quick. Yeah. Just to be clear, we're not voting on a development. This is a conditional use just for the 10 units. So typically drainage is included as part of plat approvals and the stormwater plan that's part of those plat approvals. Those don't make it up to the council. Those stay in the wonky phase of the first phase of planning and zoning. But I just want to be clear, what the vote is just for the 10 residential units. So the developer, with or without this authorization, could build essentially the same building. I know that like I said, that sounds like getting into the weeds a little bit, but the vote for residential units wouldn't really affect the runoff. I mean, whether it's a building that has just stores in it or residential units, it's essentially the same from a practical perspective. So anyway, like I said, I know that's wonky planning and zoning stuff, but sometimes those things are important.
Thank you, Councilman Shaw. Any other comments tonight? Yes, ma'am. If you would give us your name and address, please, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Cherie Beavers. I live at 641 South Sanders Road. First item I have is I want to thank you for paving South Sanders Road. It is much quiet, and my neighbors and I appreciate it. The second item I have is, are there any funds allocated for drainage systems in my area?
Ms. Beavers, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There will be a public comment section at the end of the meeting. The item we're considering now is specifically related to item number 18, a project at 1869 Chase Drive. Do you have a comment on that particular item?
No.
Okay, we'll welcome you back during public comments if that's okay. Any comments specifically about item number 18 regarding the development at Chase Drive? Hearing and seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and approval for the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 19, resolution number 6813-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Hoover City Schools Foundation and to execute any and all documents necessary for such agreement in the amount of $20,000.
Mr. President, I will intend to abstain from this vote.
Yeah. Mr. President, I approve for the approval of Resolution 6813-22.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval of the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it. And Madam Clerk, please note Councilman Shaw's abstention. Item number 20, resolution number 6814-22. Mr. Corley.
All right, this resolution approves an alcohol license for Slice LLC doing business as Moss Rock Festival located at 995 Champion Way, Hoover, Alabama. Christopher Saleh Jale and Jason Bryan Jale, executives.
Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution number 6814-22.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval of the resolution. Any questions or comments from the members? Any comments from members of the public tonight? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We will now have 3 first readings, beginning with item number 21, resolution number 6800-22. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of such nuisance pursuant to Alabama law at the following locations: 2051 Wood Meadow Drive and 425 Shades Avenue. A public hearing is set for November 7th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Corley. There will be no action on this item tonight, but as Mr. Corley just indicated, there will be a public hearing and potential vote at our next meeting on November 7th. We'll now move to item number 22, ordinance number 22-2583 for a first reading. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance modifies Chapter 4, Animals and Fowl, of the Hoover Municipal Code to amend Section 4-25 entitled Penalty to add Section 4-29 entitled Public Nuisance. A public hearing is set for November 7th, 2022.
We'll now move to item number 23. It's an ordinance number 22-2584 for a first reading. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance modifies Chapter 8, Article 2, Section 8-16-7, subsection O of the Hoover Municipal Code to amend the business license costs for massage establishments in the city of Hoover. Public hearing is set for November 7th, 2022.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the end of our regular agenda. I do want to recognize our distinguished president of the Jefferson County Commission, Mr. Jimmy Stevens, is here tonight. Mr. Stevens, I believe you have a presentation for us.
I do. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Council, Mayor. I was listening to so many of the way you're giving back to the community, both private partners and the public. And you have created a model here in the city of Hoover that is enviable. You give back to the citizens, you use your tax dollars well, and we on the commission, we have something we call a C attitudes. We communicate, which you do. We cooperate, which definitely you do, and we coordinate, which is we work together to get things done. And occasionally we get a chance to commit and to give back. And that's something that I want to do here tonight. The Jefferson County Commission has had funds available to it, and normally I give to the education systems in the city of Hoover because you do such a great job of filling the needs of the citizens and handling the infrastructure requirements. But tonight, I have a check that I have talked with the mayor, the council, and the leadership Hoover, and the Russet Woods Homeowners Association. And we all work together to try to find a good way to give back to the citizens of Hoover. And I have a check for the renovation of the Russet Woods Park, which is very, very much what Signature Homes and the city of Hoover is doing. And this is a kind of a segue into that. So, Mayor, if you will come accept, and the city council will accept a check for $150,000 for the Russet Woods Community Park. It's not a big check. It's a little check, but it has a big heart.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will certainly put this to good use, and the mayor and his staff have certainly committed to working with the county to ensure this is a state-of-the-art park that the Russet Woods residents can certainly be proud of, and any Hoover resident that